The door had been locked for over a decade, sealed shut with rusted chains. So how did the footage show the office light turning on, and someone sitting at the desk? And I've been a paranormal investigator for almost 5 years. Not professionally, not with a TV crew or anything, just me, a decent camera. And a curiosity that's gotten me into more situations than I care to admit. It was one of those schools people whispered about. Strange accidents, unexplained disappearances, and the principal, Mr. Halbert, who simply vanished one night after locking his office door behind him. This happened last year, when I visited Darrington Middle School, a place that has been shuttered since 2008 after a fire broke out in the science wing. That door was still locked when I got there. I'd done my research. The building had been condemned, but the principal's office room 3B was never entered again. The district sealed it off with chains and bolts, claiming it was unsafe. No one ever saw what was inside after the fire. But rumors said the desk light still flickered on at night. Some kids swore they saw a figure through the frosted glass. Naturally, I brought a camera. I set it up across the hallway from the office door, pointing directly at the sealed entrance. Infrared, wide-angle lens, motion-sensitive backup. I planned to leave it overnight and check the footage in the morning. The hallway was unnervingly quiet. My footsteps echoed like gunshots. The air was heavy with dust, and that faint, acrid scent of something burned a long time ago. The office door had 2 heavy chains crisscrossed over it, fastened with locks that looked untouched for years. There was no way in. I confirmed that myself. I even pushed on the door solid as a rock. There was movement. Still, I left the camera running. I packed up and left by 10 p.m. The next morning, I loaded the footage into my laptop and sat down with a coffee, expecting hours of nothing. At first, that's exactly what I got. Empty hallway, darkness, occasional dust floating past the lens. I fast-forwarded through it. Through a narrow gap in the door's glass pane, I could see just enough to make out the outline of a man sitting down at the desk. Then, at exactly 3 a.m., something changed. The office light turned on, flickered once, then held steady. I froze, staring at the screen. There was no sound, but I could see it clearly. The frosted glass in the doorframe glowed faintly from inside, and then a shadow passed behind the glass. Someone had walked across the room. Then, impossibly, the camera picked up a clearer view. He just sat there. The footage simply stopped. They're corrupted from that moment on, not moving, not working. Same hallway, same door. I stood there at 2:55 a.m., staring at the chains, heart pounding in my throat, just staring straight at the door. I watched for 10 minutes. He never blinked. He didn't fade like a trick of the light. He just existed. At one point around 3:07, he slowly tilted his head, right at the camera. That was when the feed cut to black. I thought maybe the battery had died, but when I checked the camcorder later, the power was fine. I needed to see for myself. That night I went back. Then it happened again. At 3 a.m., the light inside turned on. I stepped back, phone in hand, recording everything. The frosted glass glowed once more. I whispered out loud, "Hello?" I didn't look back until I reached my car. I just swear to God. A shadow moved behind the glass. Someone stood up. Slowly, I heard a soft creak from the other side of the door. Then 3 slow knocks. Right against the glass. Same door. I dropped my phone, scrambled back. The door groaned, but didn't open. I didn't force it. The door didn't open. The chains didn't move. But someone was in there. Ran. The footage on my phone, useless. Just black static after the knock. I returned the next day in broad daylight with a local maintenance guy who had access to the building. I asked him if we could open 3B. He looked confused. "There is number 3B, he said. He showed me the blueprints. Where the principal's office had been was now marked as a sealed-off utility void, no longer a room at all. I begged him to come check anyway. We went to the hallway together. Same chains. He swore it shouldn't exist. He let me cut one of the rusted locks open, just one. But before we left, I looked at the floor. There were fresh shoe prints in the dust, leading out from under the door. I haven't gone back since. But sometimes, when I can't sleep, I rewatch the footage. Just to remind myself that at 3 a.m., in a school that hasn't functioned in over a decade, Someone still sits behind that desk, waiting, still watching, somehow knocking from the other side. I thought the swing moving on its own was creepy until I heard a teacher's voice yell, "Line up, hands behind your back." The playground was empty, but the voices didn't stop. I lived just 2 streets down from the old Green Hollow Elementary School. It's been abandoned since 2004 after mold shut the building down in the district. Couldn't T afford repairs? They fenced it off, put up signs, and boarded the windows. But the playground equipment swings, monkey bars, and that faded yellow slide was left behind. For the past few months, I'd been hearing things. It started subtle. I'd be walking my dog at night, and I'd hear the faint creak of metal from the direction of the school. I chalked it up to the wind. Not until one night I heard laughing. Children's laughter. Giggling like recess was still going on. It was midnight. I stopped walking. A dog growled low, ears flat. I couldn't see anything over the fence, but I stood there for a long time, listening. The laughter faded. Then, in a sharp, authoritative voice I heard, "Line up, now," clear as day. A woman's voice, stern, like a teacher trying to maintain order. But there was no one there. Over the next few nights, it got worse. Different sounds, children running, the squeak of sneakers on asphalt, distant bell ringing. One night I recorded the audio on my phone. I caught the sound of footsteps sprinting right past me, but when I turned, nothing was there. It's just the rusted swing set, still moving. I finally decided I needed to know more. I posted in a local Facebook group, asking if anyone else had heard the sounds. A woman messaged me privately. She said she was a student at Green Hollow in the late 90s, told me something happened there, lockdown that wasn't in the papers. She said a substitute teacher had a breakdown during recess, screamed at the kids, locked them outside. One of the kids ran into the road. Didn't survive. The teacher vanished. No arrest, no charges, just gone. She ended the message with, "We weren't supposed to talk about it, but she's still there. She's still screaming at us to line up." That same night, I made the worst decision of my life. I jumped the fence. It was just after midnight, cold, moonless, and quiet, at first. The asphalt underfoot was cracked, overgrown with weeds. The equipment looked skeletal in the dark. I stood near the swing set, heart pounding. Then I heard it again, giggling. Dozens of kids, coming from every direction. I spun around, no one. Then I felt it. The swing beside me began to rock. Back and forth, slowly. Then footsteps. Tiny light. Running circles around me, fast, laughing. One rushed past my shoulder and I swear I felt a breeze. Cold and sharp. Then came the voice. "Closer now. Line up. Hands behind your back. Don't make me say it again." I turned and saw her. A woman in an old-fashioned skirt and cardigan, standing on the far side of the playground, hair tied back tightly. One hand clutching a clipboard, the other pointing right at me. She didn't blink, didn't move. But behind her, I could see shapes. Faint like heat ripples children, dozens of them. I didn't even realize I'd scraped my hand until I got home and saw blood on the doorknob, standing in rows, heads down. I ran. I didn't stop until I was back over the fence and on my street. I haven't gone back since. But some nights, when the wind is still and I'm lying in bed, I hear it through my window. A single swing creaking. And a voice, cold, harsh, commanding, cutting through the night. Last warning, everyone line up. And always the sound of a bell, ringing for recess. But no one's played there for 20 years. At exactly 2:14 a.m., the sound hit like a wave 200 metal locker doors slamming shut at once. I thought I was alone in the school, till I realized the fire exit was chained from the outside. Quiet places with history. I run a small YouTube channel that documents abandoned places. Not the fake haunted junk reel stuff. Rotting malls, forgotten hospitals, empty schools. One of my followers tipped me off about Carver High. A public school shut down in the early 2000s after a student went missing during a fire drill. No one found him. No foul play proved. The school just shut its doors. It was perfect for content. The building was dead quiet, but I kept catching weird sounds on the mic scrapes, faint thuds, what I thought were rats. I drove out with my gear, a tripod, a couple flashlights, and a backup phone. The front doors were sealed with rusted chains, but a side entrance near the gym was open like someone wanted people to come in. Old motivational posters curling off the walls. Textbooks still open on desks. Rows of lockers stretching down hallways like metal ribs. Inside, it was like the school had been frozen in time. By midnight, I had already filmed 2 segments and set up a stationary camera in the science wing. I was standing between 2 long rows of tall gray lockers, talking to the camera about urban legends tied to the school. At around 2 a.m., I started filming near the main hallway. I even joked, if there's a ghost here, now's the time to prove it. That's when it happened. At 2:14 a.m., every single locker, every door slammed shut at once. I remembered because I'd been peeking into a dusty shelves, forgotten gym shoes. The sound was so loud it knocked the breath out of me. Metal crashing from all directions like thunder rolling through a tunnel. I dropped the camera. It's just silence after the impact. Spun in a circle. Nothing. No movement. No footsteps. Some of the lockers had been half open seconds before. Now every single one was sealed tight, static, battery dead, even though it had been fully charged. I picked up my camera, but the screen was frozen. My phone still worked, so I used its flashlight and started backing toward the fire exit. That's when I saw it. Chains. Thick, rusted, padlocked from the outside. I hadn't noticed them before. They weren't there when I entered. I tried the door. It rattled, but didn't budge. Whoever chained it shut, did it while I was inside. That's when I began to hear footsteps. Not one pair. Multiple, echoing down the halls. Slow, measured, coming toward me from every direction. I ducked into a classroom. I slammed the door, locked it. The room was filled with desks, stacked in a corner. The air smelled like mold and old paper. I crouched low, flashlight off, listening. Outside the door, footsteps stopped. I remembered an old bleacher exit that might still open. Then I heard something that still makes my blood run cold. Tapping one by one. Every locker down the hallway was being tapped lightly, rhythmically. It's like someone dragging their fingers across them, searching. Then a voice. A whisper, right outside the classroom door. "You shouldn't be here after the bell." I froze. Whoever or whatever was out there knew I was inside. My only chance was the gym. I waited for the tapping to fade, then bolted out the classroom and sprinted down the hallway. The lockers were vibrating now. No hands on them, just shaking like something inside wanted out. I made it to the gym. My lungs were on fire. The door to the bleachers creaked open. Behind me, I heard one final slam, a single locker near the front doors, snapping shut like a mouth. I didn't look back. I crawled through a shattered panel in the gym's outer wall and collapsed outside. When I checked the footage later, only one clip had survived. A hallway shot, about 10 seconds long. All the lockers still. Then, like a wave, they slammed shut. All of them. But just before the camera died in the reflection of one locker door, I saw a face, not a full person, just a boy's face. Wide eyes, open mouth, as if screaming from inside. I haven't returned to Carver High. The building's being torn down this year. But every time I edit a new video, I think about that night. And I wondered what would have happened if I'd opened that locker. It's the one that slammed last. It's the one closest to the missing kid's nameplate. Langston D. Langston, homeroom 2A.